Continuing on with our look at the very basics of expressions. So basic, in fact, that it's really just about introducing you to what expressions are and maybe prompting you to look into that topic further. This time around, we're going to be writing an expression from scratch, and we're going to be looking at the wiggle expression, a really useful tool for adding a little bit of random movement to your work. So let's come over to this comp that's called to. I think it's called wiggle. Wiggle and expression sliders. So that's what we're going to play with. So firstly, right, let's come to the cheese layer, and we'll bring up the rotation property of. I'll just that and bring up the rotation property of the cheese layer. We're going to apply an expression to the rotation property of the cheese layer. Now we do that by either right-clicking it and going Edit Expression, or you can get that under Animation, Add Expression. Same thing, and it will bring up our expression kind of field here where we can type. Currently it's just stating that we are in the expression for the rotation property of the cheese's transform. And I'm going to write in here or add the wiggle expression. And as I'm writing, you can see that possible expressions are showing themselves, and I'm going to click on the wiggle expression. So we've got wiggle, and then we've got brackets, and we can put some values inside the brackets. You'd also be able to find the wiggle expression somewhere in here. I think it's property wiggle, and you could add it without kind of typing anything. The wiggle expression requires at least two values to be inside those brackets. So the first value is a frequency and the second value is an amount, and have those separated by commas. Let's add a couple of values in here, and just pretty randomly, I'm adding 2 for frequency and 30 for amount. So it's going to wiggle randomly this object on rotation 2 times every second to a value of 30 degrees, because this is rotation. And we'll play it and see what happens. And you can see it's causing the animation to occur, and we haven't even done a single keyframe, which is cool. And we could apply that to other properties as well. I'm going to add position and add scale. And I could copy that expression there and paste it into other, just creating more expressions in each of the position, rotation, scale properties. And now I've got some very complex animation occurring without a single keyframe. Obviously it's kind of, I can't control it as much, but you know, for a wiggle, sometimes you don't need that kind of control or that level of control if you're just trying to make something kind of jitter or seem as if it is alive. Having said that, we can add a level of control, and we can combine our expression with an effect to create a keyframeable slider for our expression, and we'll do that with the grape over here. Now just hide the cheese so that we don't get confused. And I'm going to come into the position property, and and I'm going to add an expression, and I'm going to write it in, wiggle, 2 brackets, and I'm going to put in a frequency of 2 and an amount of 50, and we'll look at what that does. That's moving it around, sort of giving it a little bit of shake. So I imagine like these grapes were in the back of a car or something as the car is driving along, kind of bouncing up and down. Now we've got these 2 variables here, frequency of 2 and an amount of 50, and I want to be able to control that over time a little bit, so maybe increase the amount of wiggle or pull the amount of wiggle back. We can do that if we add an expression control effect. So let's select the grape layer and come up to effects and come down to expression controls. And under expression controls, we've got various types of controls, and this slider is the one I want to add to the grape layer. So you can see up here, all we've got really in this effect is a value slider from 1 to 100. Doesn't really do anything unless you attach it to part of an expression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this slider and have 2 sliders. One's going to be, and I'm hitting return on the keyboard, one's going to be for frequency, and one's going to be for amount. Alright, so this slider is going to control this value here, and this slider is going to control this value here. And then, so to attach that, we'll use the pickwick. So I'm selecting the 2 value there, and I'm going to drag the pickwick from the expression to this particular slider up here. And now you can see that's added some code into the expression there. It's the same, but it's adding in the effect, right? And applying the frequency slider to this particular value that was inside our brackets there. I'm going to do the same to our amount. So it's adding the effect of the amount slider to that value. So now what we've got, nothing's happening at the moment because our sliders are both set to 0. Now I'll just bring up our effects as well. Now we've got under effects, we've got a slider for frequency and a slider for amount. So that means that I could keyframe those values. So currently we're set to nothing, but if I bring the sliders up to what we had before, it was a value of 2 and a value of 50, you'll see that it's moving like it was before. So I could keyframe that at, I don't know, 1. And over time, over 2 seconds, really ramp up that frequency and amount. So I'll take the frequency up to 8 and the amount up to 100, sorry. And now you can see we've got an animation. We're animating our expression over time. And I'm thinking about just lost this. I'm going to, just to finish off, drop that right down to 0, right down to 0 again, just so that we can see that kind of transition of values happening over time. So this effect is really good for kind of fine-tuning your wiggle, really good for things like adding a camera shake or camera kind of glitch to our compositions. That's the wiggle expression.